Hey everyone, Philippa here. I'm back after a couple of weeks of absence. I don't know how many of you noticed. I took a couple of weeks off doing lives after I got hit in the head and wasn't feeling quite myself for a little while. I was finding it a little hard to focus, so I didn't want to inflict the less than usually okay version of myself on you and sound any more confused than usual. Anyway, on to today's topic. I'm just going to see if I can get this a little less skew if... No, maybe not. Sorry about the wobblies. I haven't found a solution for that yet. So, Wellness Wednesday. It's Wednesday again. And I wanted to talk about kids today because a question was asked, not actually directly to me, but of someone on my team recently, and someone asked her, why do kids need supplements? And I guess it wasn't a question that she was necessarily expecting at that moment because the answer seems obvious to her, but it's not obvious to everyone, and it's a really good question to ask, even if it's something that you've sort of taken for granted. It's really good sometimes just to challenge our thoughts and feelings on these topics every now and then, just to make sure that we really are on the right path there. So, okay, kids and supplements. First off, I want to say supplements for anybody are not, they're not a substitute for a healthy lifestyle. And that goes for grown-ups and for kids. Same deal for everybody. You know, a good, healthy lifestyle is really going to stand you in good stead now and in the future. And so we can't necessarily use supplements as an excuse to do things that we perhaps know that we shouldn't be doing, right? I'm just gonna leave that there. Partly because a healthy lifestyle, that phrase means different things to different people. If you want to know my thoughts on some of that, then you're welcome to, we can chat more privately. But otherwise, you know, I'm sure you know what you're doing really well for your health at the moment and what you might not be, and that's okay. But the fact is, okay, scroll back a tiny bit. Some people feel that we should be able to get everything that we need from the foods that we eat, right? And that is a really wonderful thought. And I really wish that were true. I really do. But unfortunately, it's really just not the case. Because the fact is we don't live in a perfect world and we're not perfect people. Right? So that goes for grown-ups. I personally know it's not possible for me to get everything that I need and to feel optimal and perform well, even, I shouldn't say just, but if you want to say that, just as a stay-at-home mum. I don't know if you can hear my kids in the background. It's their school holidays at the moment, so there'll be interesting noises that you might be able to hear on this. Sorry about that. But you know what? The same thing goes for our kids. If we can't get everything that we need from our diets, then how is that really any different for them? And yes, okay, grown-ups eat more than children do because they have a greater capacity to eat, usually. But then they also need a lot themselves. Okay, they're smaller bodies, so and some things they need less of. But there are other things that they might need more of because their bodies are still laying their foundations, I suppose, for the rest of their life. So anyway, I didn't want to labor this point too long. But I just want to say, I personally have seen enough evidence to feel that we can't get enough from diet alone, right? And I've seen that personally for myself. I've seen it with our kids because we've had a couple of our kids tested at various points and in various ways and found sometimes their nutritional status has been lacking or there have been nutrients that have been out of balance. And that is despite having eaten what most people and the establishment generally would consider to be a well-balanced diet because that was something that my mum was pretty big on when we were growing up. We learned the difference between proteins and carbohydrates and We knew about fiber and vitamins and those sorts of things. Now I know that there's more to know than I knew growing up, but that was a really good foundation. Where was I? Right, so yes, that's right. So at various points we've had some of our children tested for nutritional status, sometimes for particular things and sometimes more of our broad panel, and found that in some instances they've been lacking. So we know from our own experience that it's very difficult to get everything that you need in the quantities that you need from diet. And there are lots of reasons for that. Some of it's the quality of our food, some of it's how far some of it is traveling, some of it's how we're preparing it, some of it is just the stress that our bodies and our minds are under. And so there's a constant assault, if you want to call it that. There's always a degree of oxidative damage happening and all of those things. Again, I wasn't going to get too technical. Anyway, so think of supplements, just as for us, for your kids, as just a way of minding the gaps. Because, okay, even supposing, even if it were possible to get everything that we needed just from what we eat, we're not perfect people, are we? So we don't always prepare perfectly. We don't always think, oh, well, we've eaten the same sorts of vegetables for 3 weeks running, I've got to buy something different. Or, sometimes we're really busy and so we have to pick up something or grab something that's easy and that's filling and that might give us energy, but that perhaps isn't fresh vegetables and therefore is a little bit lacking. So think of supplements just as a way to mind the gap. Yes, even for your kids. For those of you just tuning in, we're just talking about kids and supplements today because the question had come up a few weeks ago. So they're a way to mind the gaps because no, we're not perfect all the time. I'm not perfect all the time, are you? Yeah. Because there are certain environmental factors, lots of environmental factors that cause stress, and stress can cause us to burn through various nutrients more quickly than we do when we're not stressed. And then, of course, fussy eaters, and that obviously this is a big issue with kids. I'm sure that there are parents watching who are thinking, oh yeah, one of our children is really fussy, or our kids were really fussy when they were little, and they can go through different stages. And I know some people are really hard on parents who have fussy eaters because there's the idea that you just have to make them eat what they're meant to eat. But those of us who've had fussy eaters know that it's not always that simple. And they go through seasons of these things often. So supplements can be a great way just to fill in some of those gaps when they're going through a difficult season. And sometimes kids have food allergies or they have some other medical issue going on that might make it difficult for them to eat a really well-balanced diet. And so, again, good reason to just mind those gaps. And the other factor I wanted to mention is for you Kiwis, and to some degree Australia, I'm not sure how soils are in the rest of the world, but I know that New Zealand soils are specifically deficient in a few nutrients, right? So the three that I know our soils are deficient in are iodine. Hi, Joanne. Thanks for joining us. So our New Zealand soils are definitely deficient in iodine, selenium, and magnesium. So those are three things that if we're eating New Zealand produce, we're not getting in appropriate amounts. So that's something to consider. Wherever it is that you live, do you know what your soils are deficient in? Are you plugging those gaps? And we know there, I've been on the health department website. I know that the health department is concerned about iodine deficiency specifically. And so now they're advising that pregnant women need to take iodine. Hi, Jolene. Nice to see you too. So I'm not making this stuff up. It's there. You can go and look for it. So in New Zealand, our soils are deficient again. I'll just repeat in iodine, selenium, and magnesium. So at the very least, those are three things that we need to be getting into ourselves in a different way. So other than just from our food. And that does include our kids. Sometimes it feels like people think that children are exempt from a lot of these issues that we know are present for us grown-ups. But they're subject to the same environmental, the word escapes me. They're subject to the same issues that we are, largely. So, for all of those reasons, deficient soils, fussy eaters, not being perfect all the time, periods of stress, those sorts of things, for all of those reasons, I personally think that it's wise to give the kids something to plug some of those gaps. It's kind of an insurance policy, if you like. Now, I think there are a few things to keep in mind when you're looking at kids' supplements. Quality is a big one, because not everything that is available off the shelf is of wonderful quality. Although I think people have been talking about that more in recent years, so I think things are possibly improving. But just what's cheap and easy off the supermarket shelf isn't necessarily going to be your best option. I will leave you to do your own research on that. But it's things like, unfortunately, occasionally, what we're told should be in it on the label on the bottle, sometimes it's not actually in it. Not great. Or sometimes it's just a case of what we're told is in there, but it might not be in the most bioavailable form. Because did you know there's more than one form of vitamin C, of calcium, of vitamin D, right? Vitamin D, case in point, if you're going to be taking vitamin D, you want to be taking D3, cholecalciferol. I could say that a few minutes ago, just as an example, right? Some of you will have the time to investigate those sorts of things for yourselves, and if not, go to your local health food shop, maybe, and ask the question there. They should know their stuff. So it needs to be a good quality supplement, in my opinion. And there are lots of other factors that come into that. But again, I'll leave those details to you. It needs to be easy to take, right? Because I don't know about you, but some things are really hard to get into my kids. Our 9-year-old, he can now swallow capsules, which is great because that opens up a whole lot of possibilities that weren't available to us before, shall we say. But our 7, nearly 5, and 3-year-olds haven't a hope of swallowing any kind of capsule. So it's pretty much got to be like a liquid or a gel or a chewable form or something like that. But then maybe you want to avoid lots of sugar, but you want to make sure they're not artificially sweetened, and it's got to taste good. And I tried something on our 7-year-old maybe a couple of months ago, and it was supposed to be strawberry flavored. I was like, yeah. This was fish oil. It was supposed to be strawberry flavored, and I thought that was going to work for him, and it smelled wonderful, but he tells me it smells of strawberry, but it doesn't taste like strawberry, and he refused it. You know, so palatability and you know, the practicality of getting into them is a perfectly valid consideration, especially when it comes to your kids. And I think it needs to be formulated for kids, because kids' needs are a little different to grown-ups' needs, because they're still growing. So that's important. So, you know, for our kids, we have chosen a multivitamin and mineral supplement that we love, and we love it because we think it's great quality. It's been formulated specifically for kids. It's gluten-free, which is really important because one of our kids is really gluten sensitive. It's non-GMO. It tastes really good, so they always want to have it. Woohoo! That's kind of a big deal. They're always excited to have it. And it's naturopathically formulated, which I like. And it's also really handy because it's in little single-serve packets, which means that I can pack it into the boys' lunch boxes. Or if we're going away for a couple of days, it's really easy to cart around. Don't need spoons or anything. It's like in a gel that they just suck out of that little sachet, and they love it. And I have the peace of mind of knowing that if they're having a fussy day, and they're refusing some of their usual food, or maybe they're tired, or they're sick, or they're stressed about something, we're sort of covering some of those possible gaps, and that I feel a little more relaxed knowing that we're doing that. So anyway, those are my thoughts on kids and supplements. It's easy to think, oh, kids are kids, and they're all healthy from the get-go and they don't need anything. That's okay. Yeah, some people do feel that way, but we've kind of been down that route, and now we're down this one, and I don't think it hurts if you're using a really good formulation that's formulated for kids specifically. If you're at all concerned, of course, check with your doctor. And if your kids have some kind of medical condition, definitely check with your doctor. Always check with your doctor in that sort of situation, just to make sure that what you plan to give them isn't going to interact with something that they're already taking or create any other sort of issue. They're our most precious, it's weird to say belongings, our little people. We just have to do the best by them. I'm sure you'll agree. So those are my thoughts on kids and supplements. If you have thoughts too, pop them down below. If you have any questions, feel free to flick me a message. If you think this would be useful for people that feel free to share. And if you have questions, or perhaps you'd like to know what it is that we use for our kids, what we feel safe using on our kids, flick me a message and I am happy to help. Okay, I hope you all have an awesome afternoon. Bye for now.